Yes, so today we are having with us Devendra Jani, a TEDx speaker, founder of Be the Lead, a project manager at IT firm, and a climate reality leader trained by Al Gore, former vice president of USA. Featured as a planet buddy by Economic Times, he represented Pune in Geneva in Switzerland at World Economic Forum and was invited by government of Hiroshima, Japan for G7 Youth Ministers meet. Apart from that, he is working on changing human behavior towards native bees, converting bee-fearing citizens to bee-loving, training farmers on bee-centric farming, and inspiring youths to envision sustainable urban habitats. We are very glad to have you, sir.
Thank you, Avni. Thank you so much for the introduction and the invitation.
Yes. So without further ado, I think let's begin because I'm very excited and I have certain questions in my mind.
Sure.
And I certainly think that our audience also wants to know more about it. Yeah, so as I mentioned in the introduction, you are an IT professional, and being an IT professional, and now you are an environmentalist as well, along with it. So, these two are, I think, absolutely contradictory fields, we can say. So, what led you to this, or what was the triggering point when you thought that the importance of these tiny creatures?
Good question, Avni. So, what usually happens is there could be contradictory fields, but every person, irrespective of the field, needs food. Okay, you can survive for a few days without food, but not for very long. And I had this passion of growing veggies on my own since childhood. So I thought of taking this a step ahead. And in my flat at fifth floor, I started putting some veggies. I was getting good supply of mint and chilies and all of it, but I had issues with tomatoes. It was suffering something called as flower dropping syndrome. So there were flowers, but they were not converting into tomatoes. And I was wondering what could be an issue. With a little bit of googling, I realized that there is a very important connection of bees, specifically bumblebees and tomato flower. When they hum on it, the pollen sac opens, pollination happens, and the flower then converts into tomato, which was not happening on the fifth floor of my apartment. So I got into a hack, but that got me curious about bees, and I started knowing more about them. To my surprise, in Pune, we have a honeybee research institute. So I thought, wow, when there is such a big institute here, why not visit them? And when I visited them, the insights which they shared with me were so mind boggling that I started falling in love with bees. And that's how my journey towards talking about their importance and understanding how they play a very critical role in our whole ecology started to take shape.
It was great to know that, sir. And I forgot to mention one thing in the introduction that you are an alumnus of IIM Calcutta, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm sure that it is one of the top schools, management schools in India. But are there some management lessons which we can learn from bees as well? Because we many a times hear that there are this XYZ lessons which we can learn from dogs, from any other animal, but I'm sure that very few people have heard that we can learn some management lessons, and not only management but lessons from bees as well. So can you share with us that?
So I have, Avni, a big list of what we can learn from them, and I could talk for 2 hours on it and still will fall short of time. But few
Yeah.
basic things I always share with everybody is about our health. There is nothing more relevant in these difficult times, challenging times, which point us that how important our health is. And I only got to know about sanitization and social distancing during these pandemic times. I'm not sure if many of us knew about this word called social distancing, but
Yeah.
you'll be surprised that honeybees always have been doing this since decades. So if a bee is not well, she'll secrete a pheromone, letting other bees in the hive know that please don't come close to me. I'm not feeling well. You may be infected, and that's how the whole hive will be infected. So that's a
Okay.
great way of maintaining social distancing already. They also follow something which is similar to vaccination. If a bee is not well and she recovers, she will give her antigens to the queen. She feeds the queen. And the queen, when she lays the eggs, passes those antigens, which is the first dose of vaccination for the babies. And
Okay.
when the babies come out of the shells or the eggs, the worker bees, when they feed them second time, they give them additional antigens, which is the second dose of vaccination. So it is
Okay.
an amazing way of how they are ensuring that the whole hive becomes immune or improves their immune system once someone has already been infected and recovered. And you'll be
Yeah, right.
surprised that they make something called as propolis, which is made from resins and other material, and it's the best antifungal antibacterial kind of a sanitizer which they spray in whole hive. So when the bee lands on it, her legs get sanitized, and therefore there is less propagation of any bacteria or viruses in the hive. I mean, this is amazing. Such a tiny insect doing such
Right.
intelligent things is unheard
Right.
of. It's all for maintaining good health, because if you have health, then you have everything you need for. But if you have a lot of wealth and you don't have good health, what will you do with that money? Okay.
Yeah.
It's also very important about how you are managing your communications. Okay, you have all the skills which ride on this base of communication. This soft skill is most important. You could be the best of the scientists in the world, and you could be the best of the powerful presidents of the world, but if you can't communicate, you will not put your points through. And I was wondering, how do bees communicate? They do something called as waggle dance or a bee dance. A foraging bee comes into the hive and she'll dance. If she's dancing in the round fashion, the food source is within 50 miles. If she's dancing in eight
Okay.
fashion, the food source is beyond 50 miles. The angle to the sun which she's dancing is the angle the other bees need to take. The distance at which she's vibrating is the distance they need to fly. And she's also got the sample of pollen and nectar to give it to these bees and let them know that this is what you need to get. I mean, this is the best way of communication without any misunderstanding or without any gaps, you know. So this in turn puts us into a spot that we also need to have good communications to manage our relationships, to manage our work, to manage probably our life smoothly and
Yeah.
easily. And lastly, I see we are lacking empathy these days. You know, it's very strange and shocking that if you find somebody who's met with an accident on the road, instead of helping them immediately, you remove your phone and you start taking a video of all of that. You know,
Yeah,
but
right.
on the contrary, there are videos where you see that if a bee is needing help, like one of the videos I saw, her wings were stuck to her belly because she was into some sticky substance. You'll find
Okay.
immediately other bees which came up, which got her rid of the sticky substance and got her wings free so that she can fly back. You know, this is such a lovely example of how they are empathizing with somebody who needs help and how quickly they are helping to ensure that the like kinds of them are staying happily. I
Yeah.
mean, this is great to learn from them. There's a lot to learn from bees, but I think this is something which I can think of as top three for now.
Yes, yes, definitely. I'm taking this knowledge and going home today, I guess, because I also wasn't knowing any of this. So yeah, just now you mentioned about the queen bee and the worker bees. So we have only been taught, means I from childhood I only know that there are two types of bees, queen bee and worker bee. But many people don't know what they do or what is their work, and how is the mating process in the bees as well. So can you share an insight about it?
Sure. I mean, unlike humans, where you've seen that the royals have the final word and the king and queen only have their descendants in the family, there is a democracy in bee society. Okay.
Okay.
There is only one queen which we know for sure, but that one queen is chosen by a group of worker bees. Okay,
Okay.
there is a tough competition to take the top spot in the hive, which is the queen. So, in the bee family, there is this one queen who's supposed to take care of everything. Is this place safe? Do we have enough food? How is the hive
Okay.
security happening, and all of it? And then she has worker bees who are helping her build the hive, get the food, do the cleaning, do the security, everything. Even the feeding, the queen
Yeah.
doesn't do, the worker bees feed her. Okay.
Okay.
And what's surprising is all these worker bees are female bees.
Okay.
All of them doing duties for the queen, helping her run the hive seamlessly. And then there are drones, which are called
Yeah.
male bees.
Okay.
They do nothing in the hive. Okay, they just they just wait for the right time. They are even fed by the worker bees. They don't even feed on their own. Okay,
Okay.
but they do one important thing, which is meeting with the new queen, and they
Yeah.
die immediately. So once
Okay.
there is a new queen in the hive, she will fly. With that first flight, there will be drones who will fly with her around 12, 13. She'll meet in the air, and then she comes back to the hive for good, which means she will not fly again unless and
Okay.
until there is security issue or swamping
Okay.
happening. And she'll be in the hive for around 3 to 4 years, continuously laying eggs, ensuring that the hive increases with good healthy bees. And the worker bees will ensure that when the queen is old, they elongate last few cells, put more royal jelly in them, because the
Okay.
difference between the queen and the female worker bees is that the queen's reproductive organs are completely developed because she's fed more
Okay.
royal jelly, whereas the
Okay.
worker bees are fed less royal jelly, so they are not completely developed. And therefore, when they do that for some last few cells, if one queen comes out of the queen cell, she'll sting all other queen cells and she'll be declared as the
Okay.
queen.
Okay.
If two queens come out from the queen cells, the worker bees will ensure that they fight, and the winning bee will be declared as the queen of the hive. Okay,
Okay.
and even they choose the best of the a lot, the newest eggs, so that the bee which comes out of those eggs is healthier, and she comes out
Okay.
faster than the normal worker bees, which take time to develop themselves in the cell. So that's about who all are there in the family and how they choose the
Yeah.
new queen.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting and it is real democratic after what you told. Yeah, so today we live in a world where adulteration is very common nowadays, and on TV commercials we many a times see that many companies they say that their brand's honey is the most pure and most natural honey we can find. So, what's your take on that? I mean, what is this pure or natural honey exactly, according to you?
So you better don't ask me about honey and its consumption, because I'm not much in the favor of consuming honey, and I don't recommend consuming honey for good.
Okay,
Firstly, I follow some basic principles of Ayurveda, and in Ayurveda, it is very clearly written that if you heat honey, it becomes poisonous. It is a
okay,
visharupi if you heat
okay,
honey. So most of the honey brands, they have to process honey to meet the standards of the industry. That means
okay,
they are spoiling the honey anyways. So there
right.
is an option of alternative, which is raw honey, which everybody says we are not heating it, we are not processing it, so on and so
Yeah,
forth.
right.
Okay, but even those, you have to take your own decision, whether you know the person, how authentic they are, how true they are,
Yeah,
and then you take your decision. And why would you need to consume honey? It's only those who are patients and who need a prescription by an Ayurvedic doctor, because honey is a pre-digested food. Okay,
okay,
bees eat it, they digest it, they vomit it out. Somebody else eats the same in the beehive, they vomit it out,
okay,
and then they cap it. Okay, so they have pre-digested that food so that when they eat it, it immediately gives them the energy and the nutrition required. So if
Yeah.
we do the same and we consume it with the medicine, the medicine reaches faster, and therefore most of the Ayurvedic medicines are prescribed with honey. So if you are not a patient, you should not consume honey, because I don't see the need of it. It is a bee's food. She spends her whole life to just make half teaspoon of honey, and you just
Oh,
take it away from her. And there are very
right.
bad practices which are happening in the honey industry.
Yeah, yeah, right.
For example, a queen will leave the box and run away with the whole workforce if the conditions are not good, if the food is not there enough, or they have a lot of mites and infections happening in the place. But what these
Right.
honey industry people do is they chop off the wings of the queen, and
Okay.
she's caged in that box. So if the queen remains in the box, all the worker bees will always be with her, and
Mm,
that's worse than putting somebody
yeah,
in prison for all the sweet work they are doing for us.
yeah,
Also, they are impregnating the queen bee out of time, out of sync, which is worse than forcing somebody into getting pregnant, just because they want a new queen and the old queen they don't want in the hive. So there are many bad practices which are happening in the honey industry. And also in the hive there are babies, there are eggs, they pee and poo in the hive. There is
yeah,
pollen, and then there is honey. So when they extract it, there is a mix of the eggs and all the dirt which could be in the honey, which you don't know how they have cleaned and how they have filtered. So there are pros and cons to it. If you must consume, then reach out to your local entity instead of big brands, because we know
okay,
all the tests which are done in Germany for these big brands have failed, proven some sort of adulteration was identified.
right.
So my take is, you are your best advisor. You take your decisions. I have shared my inputs with you, and you guys are smart enough to take your decisions right.
Yeah, actually, today in today's world, I mean, there many people are vegan, we can say, and in vegan diet, they consume more honey. So my next question was collateral to that. That are there any evil practices for more production of honey? But I guess you certainly answered it in the earlier
Yeah, I have.
question.
But anyways, just a
Yeah.
correction that vegan diet does not recommend honey at all. Okay,
Okay.
vegans are completely in favor of not having any atrocities or any animal-based product or insect-based
Okay.
products. So they're not in
Okay.
favor of meat, milk, anything which
Yeah.
harms the animals. And
Yeah.
honey is also part of that list, because they think that the
Okay.
honey industry is abusing the bees, and we should
Okay.
not consume it, so that the demand goes down. And when the demand goes down, the
Yeah.
atrocities which are done by
Yeah.
the industry
Okay.
reduces. As long as the beekeepers are keeping the bee boxes for ensuring that the good breed survives and it helps the farmers with pollination services, I think that is fine. But if you are keeping bee boxes for extraction of honey, then it could be an issue of, should you keep or should you not keep,
Yeah.
which I am not in favor of.
Yeah.
So that already puts down a question on how ethical beekeeping is happening. See, it's a daytime robbery. Somebody's working so hard and putting their food stocks so that they can survive in winters when there is no flour, when there is no food outside, when their babies need food, and you just take away all that food. It is so unhuman or unethical to do that. Okay,
Right.
so
Right.
there is a concept of scientific beekeeping as well, that bees are very hardworking. They just madly work when there is bloom of flowers outside, so that they can store as much honey as possible.
Yeah.
Okay, so there is something called as super box, and there is something called as a normal portion in the box. So in the
Okay.
super, they only store honey, and in the lower brood chamber, there is a mix of brood and honey and pollen. So if the brood chamber is full, then they see the super chamber is empty, they start filling that as well. So some of the
Okay.
beekeepers take only the additional super part and still keep the lower brood chamber for the bees to survive during their winter times. This is a mix of them, you helping them for propagation, and they helping you for honey. Um,
Yeah.
but there are different takes. There are good practices and there are bad
Right.
practices happening
But
everywhere.
sir, do you think that government should impose some restrictions or anything on the evil practices? Because as you mentioned, bees they literally work madly. So that's not an appropriate thing on their part. So
Yes, yes, I am pushing the policymakers to do this, and I need support of youths and active citizens of our country. I have
yeah.
filed a petition on change.org, which requests the agriculture minister, the prime minister, and the chief ministers of all the state that we should ban poisonous pesticides getting into our farmland. It is not
Okay.
only impacting us humans, because the food which comes out of these farms who have sprayed all these poison is cancerous for us, but it also lets away all the pollinators from the farm. That means there will
Okay.
be no bees and butterflies and other friendly like ladybird and other friendly
Yeah.
insects in your farm. uh, and your quality and quantity of food will reduce. Because of bees, your quality is good and the quantity is more. You put
Okay.
sprays, they are out of the farm. So we should do that first. And definitely we need to pressurize the government to ensure that there
Yeah.
is ethical beekeeping. I'm really
Yeah.
glad that our Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi ji, has launched a project called Honey Mission.
Okay.
I think way back in 2017, where he's encouraging farmers to do beekeeping for sustainable farming practices. Because when you have bees in your farm, you'll spread less of chemical pesticides.
Yeah.
Plus, you will increase your yield. Plus, you'll have a supplementary income along with agriculture income. So I think they have been taking right steps. But what happens on the policy level and what happens on the ground level, there is a
Right.
vast difference,
Yeah.
which only people like us, active citizens like us, can bridge that gap. And
Yeah.
I think we definitely need government to take some steps for ethical beekeeping.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess you will definitely get the support of all the youths like me, and not only youths, of everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah. So moving on to importance of bees in our environment. Why do you think it is needed? Bee conservation is needed first and foremost.
So I think there are various factors that we need to conserve a lot in our environment around. Earlier, we were very much in tandem with the nature. Our culture, our traditions were revolving around trees and animals, which is cut down with most of our Western influence.
Yeah.
Plus, just like I started with, if you think farmers are giving us food, then there is a correction which you need to make in that understanding. Because there are bees who are working the farms, doing
Yeah.
pollination, getting the food in the farms, helping the farmers get the produce they want. Okay, so if the bees are reducing in the population, it has a direct impact on the yield and the produce, which is the farm and the agriculture industry, which is the honey industry. And India predominantly is a agriculture based economy. If there is an impact there, we have a huge impact on our economy with different parameters included. Plus, for global food security, we see every day there are issues with the food reserves, and we are not able to feed everybody. But
Yeah.
with this issue of reducing bee population, the food security is also a big risk. And I think at a global level, there has to be a movement for bee conservation. So food and economy, uh, no more words to help bees.
Yeah. Yeah, so what an individual like me or like anyone who will listen to this live, what they can do on their part if a bee enters our house, and we want to I mean, we don't want to kill it, but we want it to leave our house. So basically, what shall we do in that case?
And that's a very important question, Avni, because the first very important difference is you need to understand whether it is a bee or a wasp. Okay, a bee
Okay.
is very particular about her timing, her work, and she has to be
Okay.
back to her house before it is dark. Okay, because
Okay.
she takes
Yeah.
sun as a source of
Yeah.
direction. So usually they immediately fly back to the hive before the sunset. But if we've kept our lights ready on while there is a sunset, they could get misled by that and assume our tube lights
Okay.
or lights as sun, and they could get
Okay.
disoriented. Okay, so give a second of break, let the sun go down, and then you put your lights. It hardly takes like half a minute or so, so that
Yeah.
such last late bees don't get deviated. Then
Okay.
bees are very friendly, they are furry, they don't sting you unless and until provocated.
Okay.
Whereas wasps are very poisonous. They can sting
Okay.
multiple times. They
Okay.
sting without any reason. Okay, you have to be
Okay.
very careful with wasps. Anything which is
Okay.
very orange, very yellow, that's an indication of nature that it is poisonous. Please be away from it.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
bees are mostly brown or dark black
Okay.
in color. There could be some of them which are color bees as well, but they will only sting when you are too close to the hive, when you're doing something which is not expected. A lot of noise, perfume, all of those
Okay.
deteriorate them, and they could sting only in that case. And my
Okay.
recent discovery, which is a groundbreaking discovery, that whenever a bee stings you, her stomach reabsorbs and she dies, is what the usual
Okay.
understanding is. But
Okay.
I have a video where I gave them 30 seconds, and they went round and round, and they removed their sting, which is like a screw which gets into our
Yeah.
elastic skin. So
Yeah.
they could easily remove it by giving them a little bit of time, which is hardly 30 seconds, and then they flew without ripping off their stomach. So this
Okay.
is not only helping us know that there is another opportunity to save bees, but it
Yeah.
says that there is so much of research which needs to be done on these bees for their
Definitely.
conservation, and for us to know a lot about bees. There is a
Yeah.
lot research happening outside. You'll be surprised. Russian scientists have already discovered that bees can detect faster which sample has coronavirus and which sample does not have coronavirus.
Oh.
That is the cheapest and the fastest way of identifying things.
Yes.
Otherwise, our test used to take 12 hours and 24 hours
Yes.
at
Yeah.
start.
Definitely.
Plus, they can learn. We only knew that you can train horses and dogs and other mammals, but bees were trained to pull a string and then get nectar. And she did that. She started pulling the string, take the nectar. And what will surprise you is she went to the hive. She told the whole hive that, you know what, there is another way of getting a nectar. If you pull a string, you are getting the
Yeah.
nectar. And the whole hive was there doing the same thing. Also, when they did the neuroscan of their brain, it was identified that they secrete similar chemicals as humans. When we have chocolate, we secrete some chemicals. When they have honey, they secrete similar chemicals. This is just surprising that how
Yeah.
close and what similarities we have with an insect. We'll say, अरे ये कीड़ा है, इसके साथ
Yeah.
हमारी क्या तुलना, हम इंसान हैं, we are ruling the world. But no, they are much smarter, much
Yes.
intelligent, and very small, very tiny
Yeah.
brain they have.
Yeah.
So there is a lot to learn from them, and I think we need to do a lot of research to understand how we can conserve them.
Yeah, definitely. Because most people tend to kill. I mean, I'm not an exception to that. But now I won't. But earlier, it's like if a bee enters our house, the first thing is let's let's kill him. But yeah, today I think learned a lot. And if any time a bee enters my own house, I won't do that for sure.
So glad. Thank you so much, Avni.
Yeah, so this is the last question from my part. After that, if you want to add on anything, you can definitely do it.
Sure.
So what are the projects which you are working on? Because you, as I said in the introduction, that you are making the upcoming generations bee friendly rather than killing the bees. So, what are the current projects, or what are the future projects which you are working on?
So I'm covering law, LAW, trying to ensure land, air, and water is covered for bees. Okay.
Okay.
And telling older generation that don't be afraid of bees is not working. The best thing is go and tell kids that you should not be afraid of bees, and that is working for me. Okay, so
Okay. Yeah.
I work on a project called Tree Friend. I go to
Okay.
schools, I give them saplings which are bee friendly trees or bee friendly plants, like moringa. Lovely, it's very healthy, it gives a lot of nutrition, calcium rich, phosphorus rich, vitamin C rich, and it flowers most of the season. So it is a good
Okay.
food source for bees. Coconut, lovely fruit, excellent benefits. Every part of coconut is reused, and it flowers for almost 9 to 10 months a year. Okay, so I give such saplings to the students to take care of them as a friend. I tell them
Yeah.
this tree will never run away even if you fight with it. It will
Yes.
always be with you whenever there is harsh sun and so on and so forth. And these kids lovingly take care of the sapling. Okay, and ensure it works for 6 months, and then the tree survives on its own. So that is Tree Friend. With the economically reserved students in the government schools, I am running a project called Plant a Bag. So I give them the
Okay.
sapling, they take care of the sapling, and in return, they get a school bag, which they really love,
Yeah.
uh, endorsing in the school that this is the bag I've got for taking care of
Yeah.
a tree. Okay, I'm taking sessions with farmers, free sessions, helping them know what is bee centric farming, how they can do beekeeping, and be more empathetic towards these very important pollinators. I am doing these Be the Lead sessions with corporates and students
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
So air part is covered, land part is covered with a lot of plantation. Water part is every year we go on riverbeds and we do plastic cleanup drives, so that citizens like us who live in city, they
Yeah.
understand that where is our plastic going and what is the status of the rivers, because bees
Yeah.
need water to survive just like humans. But all the water bodies we've polluted so much that they don't have enough water to drink and not enough food. We are putting so much chemicals in our farms that they don't have enough food to survive. So
Yeah.
this opens a lot of eyes for citizens, and somewhere it pinches them that, oh, I must not use plastic, or I must stop using at least a single use plastic. So this is a list of few projects I'm running. And I hope to get a lot of support. I'm already getting a lot of love from all the kids and citizens here. Let's spread the word and make it big.
So, if you want to add something to the audience, you can definitely do it.
So I would just put down 2 points. One is please, please, please sign the petition on change.org. It's called Save Bees, Save Earth. Okay, it
Okay.
has a list of all the action items we've put down for policymakers. Second is do not be afraid of bees. Okay,
Yeah.
uh, and how can you help them? By giving them food and water. So what you need to do is just put some basic flowering plants in your balcony or a garden near you or a water body near you. And the best is sarso, mustard, rai, mohri, whatever you call it. It is available in all the household in India. It's a good source of mustard and nectar, sorry, of pollen and nectar for the bees. So it will give them good food. So you can just throw away some mustard, get them food, put a bee bath, a water station with stones or pebbles so that they can come and have a sip or a drink.
Okay.
Unfortunately, they are so good, but they can't swim. So we need to put some stones and pebbles where they can land and have a sip. I think
Okay.
that's it. Don't be afraid of them. Give them some food, give them some water. Let your kids know that they are important, and be healthy, be happy.
Yes. Thank you so much, sir. It was a great chat with you. Uh, I hope you found my question somewhat interesting.
Thank you so much, Avni. Thank you for the opportunity, and big thanks to
Yeah.
WeJan for helping me reach your audience.
Anytime, sir. And best wishes to your team as well from our entire team of Vision. And
Thank you.
yes, let's keep doing the great work.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Take care.
Okay, bye. Thank you, sir.
Bye.